how they might have, how they might bring Build America bonds or other things to the table for development, community revitalization and development purposes. So that's one thing that I want to see if we're willing to add to the Gantt chart as it currently exists. And then the second thing is sort of maybe a nuanced part of the RFP process, which is having an RFP conference, sort of like a bidders conference, but an opportunity for potentially anybody that's interested in making an RFP, having all those people come forward and ask questions and get clarification, but actually have, you know, what would characteristically in a public works conference or a public works project would be a bidders conference. But I'm suggesting a slight twist on that with a conference for potential respondents. So those are two elements, one sort of nuanced and one more specific, that just want to get thoughts back from both staff and committee members whether or not those are worthy of including in the time frames and the components to move forward. If I can, let me go to first to Lorelei and Jay. Are you folks understanding what I'm suggesting?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, I think it's actually part of frankly, a marketing effort. I mean, it's not clear to me that we're going to have developers in the area or the region or the West Coast or nationally who are necessarily going to be involved without some real good salesmanship. And part of it will be making them aware of through the NDC, what kind of resources the cities can and will be willing to come in. I think that's great. And also giving them an opportunity to ask questions and answer questions and get some TLC, tell them we really want them. I mean, I think what we don't want to do, frankly, and this is why we're going in this direction, is to give a signal that the city is hopelessly divided about what to go forward to.
Exactly.
We're walking into a landmine.
Right.
Rather, it's a city that's got its act together, that has significant resources, that's willing to discuss, has a unique geography and community and whatever, and we really want you to come and take a look at this place. So, yes, I think those are great ideas.
Okay. Could it, Julie and Nathaniel, and actually everybody together, could we have something along those lines just fleshed out in the steps so that council members understand a little bit more about that component of it, whether it's framed as the marketing or however this is framed? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to respond, I like these ideas. I like both of them, of the symposium and the conference. I think we need to understand what the budget or resource impacts are, and I think that's part of what I'm hearing in Jay's comment as well. But I do think that it does help us communicate what's going on here, what we know, what may be useful to bidders, and also that it's a welcome environment, that this isn't some harebrained idea of one faction of the city, but instead we're moving forward together. I do have a couple other comments, if I might, at this point. Well, one is the current time frame that we're looking at fit within our existing budget, or is there a need to go back to council for additional budget authority given this proposal? I expect that we'll need to address that at our study session. And then the other thing that comes to my mind in looking through this is that it doesn't, the overall piece, in my mind, doesn't quite do enough to talk about stakeholder participation or public engagement. In earlier discussions, we talked about a design competition sort of approach where the public would be involved in the review of the proposals. And while I see some of that on page 3, item 2, where we talk about CAC and other stakeholders' involvement, I just think we may want to think about how to broaden that and how the general public has an opportunity to participate.
You know, one of the things that a really good developer, if we're able to find one, will do is engage in pretty significant public process, him or herself, to optimize support and encouragement and learn what the local folks want in order to be successful. Question whether we want to encourage and will evaluate developers on their willingness to and history of public engagement.
Well, and I think the short answer is yes. I mean, I think that's got to be in part of the process. So I want to test this a little bit. Nathaniel, maybe I'm hearing a little bit different. Maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I think we need to clarify that public engagement is also part of this next step all along the way, and we might need a plan for that, both in terms of pre-RFP process, you know, of clarifying to the public at large, you know, what the next steps are. You know, so, you know, more broadly community oriented, here's what we're rolling out. That needs to be a part of an upfront process in our action around the resolution. So there is some public communication that has to happen around that. I think, you know, that those again are some of the details that need to be fleshed out, and maybe they're implied, at least at this point, in terms of steps, but they need to be articulated in terms of fleshed out. And probably council as a whole need to have part of, you know, weigh in on that. So does that make sense?
It does to me, although I also appreciate Jay's comments,
Yeah.
that we may very well want to make this one of the objectives of the RFQ, RFP,
Yeah.
that the developer has some responsibility towards it.
So I think we're all agreed on that, and we're also all agreed that we need to, you know, be clear that there's pre-resolution action, public process, depending on what the council wants to do. So that we'll flesh that out. And then there's the budget issue. Keith, do you have a question?
We'll flesh that out before we move forward with an RFP, not on the 28th.
Well, we'll flesh that out in terms of, we have this council resolution period.
Mm-hmm.
There's larger public communication that has to happen around that. And you started that with frequently asked questions material. There's other material that's, you know, sort of poster board material. It's telling the story of all these, you know, all the actions. You've already got a couple-page document that gives context and other things. As Julie was saying earlier, this is good, helpful framing for both the council and for the public. We need to invest in that continued framing.
Right. At least my thought was that the council resolution, we would not have the RFP complete at that point.
No, separate these things out.
Okay.
But the resolution process
Right.
has its
That's
own
fine.
public education process.
Right.
If the council is going to take any kind of action,
Right.
we need to have public communication and clarification in terms of telling our story of what's the resolution? Why, you know,
Right.
what, okay.
Thank you.
So, and then there's the budget factor, which I think we need to be clear about associated costs with this next phase. And how that fits into our budget process. And so the costing this process out is a part of our transparently moving forward on that. I'm rushing a little bit here because we are fighting the clock. Okay, budget part. Okay, so in terms of next steps for decisions by the council, the last thing on my list in terms of wanting to make sure that we're clear about this before leaving the room. We have the work session that is scheduled for a week from today. That's the 28th. There is not an intent to come to council with an action item later that evening during our business meeting. I want to be thoughtful about when we do bring this up as a business meeting agenda item. Our next option after that is November 3rd. And at one point, we actually had it on the list for November 3rd. I think I incorrectly identified it as November 4th, but that week we're meeting on a Monday instead of Tuesday because of Election Day. But the night of November 3rd is our public hearing for the comprehensive plan. That's a busy night.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, but Julie's gone on the 28th. And I think it's actually too soon after the work session to put it on as a business item for action. So I want to check in with my colleagues and also staff in terms of options for scheduling the business meeting discussion where we're going to make decisions.
Right, we don't have a meeting November 3rd because it's Veterans Day.
Right.
So the next regular meeting is November 18th.
November 11th.
I'm sorry, 11th, yeah.
We don't have any, now I'm really confused because I thought my agenda says that we do have a meeting.
Maybe 10th?
No, we don't have a meeting that week. It's Veterans Day. It's Tuesday next, Veterans Day, November 11th, so there's no meeting November 11th.
November 11th, you just said November 3rd.
I'm sorry,
Ah,
I remember
okay.
that.
Okay,
But November 11th, there's no meeting, so the November 18th is the next opportunity after that.
right, so Nathaniel?
So my recommendation is that we approach the study session with the idea of a November 3rd action, but that we hold that depending on what the outcome of that dialogue is.
At the work session?
At the work session.
Part of what we need to do at that, whatever day we do this, is to explain to the public a little bit what we're doing, to really make sure there's some clarity around this. So my only concern with the 3rd is will we have time to do that with Henry?
I was just wondering what action you're anticipating on the 3rd.
Approving a work plan in terms of this conceptually moving forward over, what's being, the moving forward with CRA.
Okay.
It does, it will require.
Clearly, we're moving forward with CRA, and at least from my perspective, I felt like we've got council direction. We need, obviously, the how, but we've been moving forward. So if we get clear direction on the 28th, although it is a study session, I understand, we're still moving forward, though.
Yes, Keith, and at some point we have to ratify whatever comes out as in terms of a proposal. And so and it does
Just to be
appear
clear,
as a business item.
are we talking about passing the CRA resolution?
No, we're talking about.
Just responding to this memo and saying, yes, go for it.
That's correct. It is a conscious action, and which will involve potentially. I think that this will involve a commitment of resources. It does need a conscious council decision of saying, yes, this is our next direction for CRA. And we can't do that at a work session. It needs to be a business meeting where we're in a position to make a decision that I think likely will mean resource allocation.
Yeah, You could hold a special meeting with an action at the end. It's not normally the custom of a work session, but it's just a special meeting. You could ask the council if they want to proceed with the plan that's been brought forth, or you feel it's more appropriate that they give.
I'm not
time.
looking for a solution to making a quick decision here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure that there's the work session, there's time for council members to digest and think about options, a time for additional issues and to come forward from the public, and then an opportunity to make a conscious decision as part of a business meeting in terms of these are the next steps that we're trying to, these are the next steps that the council unanimously wants to move forward on. And there may be different direction given from council as a result of a work session and then a subsequent business meeting discussion. So it remains, I'm trying to figure out when to place that.
Well, part of my motivation is just looking at the timeline that's
Yeah.
before us today and seeing that we're well in the fall before the CRA plan is adopted, September of 15. And I don't want to plan for slippage, but just holding off till the 18th is not attractive to me. I think we need to keep moving forward, and I think that council endorsement of our action is actually really important, particularly at this phase.
Yeah, and to me, it's not a matter of council endorsement, it's a matter of council making this their own. They have to,
Yeah.
this has to be something that they're fully comfortable with. And I don't want to presuppose that we're going to just get there in one work session. I want to, I need the entire council to own this from a, what we've described as a consensus approach. So for the sake of time, this one, maybe it's not fully resolved, but the proposal is that we add this to the November 3rd business meeting as an agenda item tentatively, that we may come out of the work session with a different approach or a different date. Is that okay? Does that make sense, Lorelei J?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further at this point? Our next stop is the work session for this work, and Lorelei J, Keith are going to continue to polish things and get things lined for in preparation of a work session on the 28th.
I'd just say thanks and good work.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, then with no further business before the committee at this point, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You're the first person in this conference.
We'll get it. We'll get it. So, thanks everybody. We're on our way.
Friday, or 11 or 8:30, somebody else, 8 or 11, yeah. Okay.
What's that? Not for me. Leave it for the crowd.
Everybody at the foundation meeting thought I was kind of overreacting. I don't think so. I think we're seeing the end of our plans. Unless something hits the land.
Well,
if he writes an article on it, I'd love to. Okay, that's good. You have a long experience.
Yes.
Hey, you guys. Bread or something.
Bread. It's the yummy bread from,
Is your coffee stuff in? Yeah.
I know probably. It's bread.
Okay.
Julie took one. It does, yeah, I'll get it.
Thank you.
It's really good.
Hopefully not quite as late as last.
Oh. You have to be back at work the next day.
I may have to
What time?
open mic and
AM?
call that out.
Is there a meeting tonight? I don't even know that.
Well, let's go to that. Let's go.
So, oh dear. When they start misrepresenting, and they're trying to implement Christmas for a reason.
Well, anyway.
I want to invite Nathaniel to come to our capital government meeting next week. What do you think?
Sounds fine to me. He's definitely on the train.
Well, but you notice in what way?
Thanks for being here.
Oh, we'll talk.
You warned me.
I wonder if I should, well, I don't know how to turn that thing off, so I won't muck with it.
I've never been there. I haven't seen you.
Want to come to Happy Terry?
Well, it is.
No.
It's still got a big black wall with graffiti on it.
Figuring.
But the graffiti that bothered me is the black wall. It really makes it an alley that you can't observe from anywhere except going right up to it.
I was gonna untie the knots, and then I thought, I bet those knots are in there for a reason.
Random.
Okay, I thought maybe it was to keep the whole thing from being pulled into a rabbit hole or
I'm
something.
using it as
Maybe.
an example. All over the country will become famous.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
How are you? I think we're making progress. I really do. Thanks for your good work.
No, thanks. Yeah.
I'm very appreciative.
Jay is very good. Jay Rich is
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
He's really smart. He speaks with authority. He's not worried about his next paycheck.
Someday, you and I will reach the point where we're not worried about our next paycheck.
Right.
Well,
He's been very helpful.
okay, on to agenda setting.
All right, thanks.
Bye, Walt. Oh, yeah. He was here in the flesh also, wasn't he?